Ladies and gentlemen, thanks everyone for enduring through the cold weather and making it out to the Mississippi Advisory Commission on Marine Resources. I want to call to order this meeting and ask Jason if he can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Jason. General, would you like to lead us in a prayer, sir?
Yeah, and before we get started, I hope everybody endured their unusual snow season in South Mississippi. And I've lived here few years, and I have not seen anything like that in my life. But you know what? We're strong, and we will endure, right? And we just hope we don't have a whole big fish kill. I know Rick and them are looking at it, and everybody's looking at what we're having to do. So hopefully we don't have a huge fish kill because of it, but I'm sure we will have some. But also, before we start too, we need to remember the people in California. A lot of people have lost a lot of things out there. We know what that means. You know, whether it's a fire or whether it's a hurricane, we understand it. And so we understand what that means to them. And so please keep them in your prayers. Let's go to the Lord, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to serve you. Lord, we know that we'll never do it your way. We'll only try to do it as much as we can your way, Lord. We always fail in how we try to do things. And we just ask that you give us the wisdom and give this group of men and all the men and women at DMR the wisdom to do it your way and not ours. We ask this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Director. Do we have any questions on the minutes from December 17th? We don't have any questions. Do we have a motion to approve?
Make motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at the agenda? If so, do we have any questions on the agenda for today? Not, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Director, it's all yours.
All right. Once again, well, appreciate everybody taking the time. Sorry we had to move the meeting. I don't think anybody wanted to try to get here Tuesday morning. And, we had a little bit of difference in the weather and everything else. But appreciate everybody. Appreciate the commission for being able to work your schedule around and being able to move it. If you have public comment, TJ's in the back, and just see TJ and give it to him, and we'd be glad to get it in. And if it's about a certain thing that we're talking about, please put which one it is. Like whether it's in K or C or D or whatever it is. But if you can, put it that way. Let's see. Our next commission meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February the 18th at 9 a.m. Do we have any issues with that? Okay. All right. Well, one commissioner will probably be remote, but we can get him call in on it. So a legislative update. We have a legislative update, and I'm trying to look at this thing. It's not right here, but I'll get it in here in a minute. But as far as the update there, before we do that, let's do employment. I think we have that, don't we? Yeah. You see the names up there? We got a Joshua Williams, Jessica Woodall, Randy Wilson, and them. They're all new employees. Glad to have them here, and working at the NEAR, and then some in facilities operations, and then Randy came to us. Randy, you were with Forest Service at one time, right? Yeah, Forestry Commission, and then now it's with us. So we get a little bit of a background with that too. So that's good. That's fantastic. And then we got one promotion there, and that's Kyle McDonald being promoted. So always glad to do that. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. Legislative update. Well, the legislature's in session. Oh, here we go. I forgot. Breakwater Marine. I forgot that. Boy, I tell you what, I got two different lists here, and I can't keep up. You know what I mean? Invitation for bids. We've done that for Restore, and that's Deer Island. and a beneficial use sale project. So the Breakwater Marine, I think, is the one, the vendor who was selected for that. Any questions? All right. Now I'm back on track. Once again, we're going to talk about the legislature. All right, they're there. They're wide open. So get ready for them. You know, their biggest bills right now, they're trying to cut taxes. So, you know, we know that. We see what they're trying to do. And so that's what they're working on. Our biggest bill that we have in the legislature this year is the one that we're trying to do with seafood labeling. And one of the things with seafood labeling is we're trying to be able to get it to where that restaurants and our seafood markets and distributors and all, and that they have to mark or at least label where the seafood, is it domestic or is it foreign? That's the main thing. Is it domestic or is it foreign? And so why are we doing that? We're doing that because we want to get as much as we can out with the domestic. We're going to do something a little different after we get all this. If we get it passed through the legislature, once we get it passed through the legislature, then we'll probably do something through DMR to where we do Gulf Fresh. And there will be a Gulf Fresh deal through the tourism. And we go out, and if a restaurant's serving Gulf Fresh, we're going to advertise for them. We're going to put some advertisement on the, you know, billboards out or whatever that talks about who does Gulf Fresh. Why? Because that's where our fishermen, if they come from the Gulf, and that's where we get, you know, if we want them to put as much of that on the market as we can. So that's what we're working hard to do, to be able to get Gulf Fresh seafood. And I believe that the legislation will go through with no problem. I know that we're working with the restaurants and working with others, but I think it's a thing that needs to be done. It's similar to what happened in I didn't realize it, 1975, when they passed the bill to where you had to label catfish. 1975. I didn't realize it was that far back, but it was. But we should have done this long ago. We tried a few years ago and it failed, but we're going to try again and see what we can do. Some other legislations that we're doing are just kind of minor stuff, and it's basically just some stuff to straighten up some administrative things. You know, right now we have a bill that says that the way it is written, and when they changed the commission to advisory, it used to be a situation to where it would go to the commission, and then, to the commission, and the commission would make a decision. Well, now it goes to me for something, if anything's brought to me by the staff on something that's going on, and it has to come to me, then I have to take it to the commission, and then it comes back to me to approve again. Well, you know, kind of not right. We need to have another person in there. We need to have somebody else saying that this needs to come to the commission first, and then the commission needs to tell me, do I need to take it further? And so that's what we're trying to straighten up with that. We tried last year with that bill and had some issues with it, but I think maybe we've got them worked out. We got what other bill am I missing, Rick? Public records. Oh, yeah. Well, public records. We don't want to be able. I know we have a bill that says that basically that we don't have to give your information to somebody if they ask for it in a public record, because wildlife has that, and we want to have the same thing. We don't want to. If you buy a license, we shouldn't have to give your information out, and that's what we want to do. But right now, we don't have a choice. And so what we want to do is we want to get like wildlife and have that. So that's another issue we're working on. What else, Sandy? I'm missing one more. Well, you know, you got to give me two. Huh? Oh, the on bottom. Yeah, off bottom. Yeah, the taxes. That's what it is. We're trying to get it exempt to where that if you have an off bottom lease, that it doesn't go back to the tax assessor, and the tax assessor sell the lease. Because we don't want that. We want to be able to, we need to manage that, and we need to be, because anything that goes through the Secretary of State has to come back. And it's basically a situation to where that if you're delinquent on your taxes through the Secretary of State and not paying it, then they can turn around and come back, because they can tax you off of your off bottom, and they can tax you off of it. And so what they're doing is they turn around and coming back, and then if you're not, then they're selling the lease. Well, I don't want somebody that doesn't know what they're doing out there running, having control of a lease. And so that's what we're working on. And I think that we've pretty much got it. It's Harrison County only, and we've pretty much got it worked out with the county that we can kind of get to know if something's about to happen. So we'll see where we go with that. Big thing is the seafood labeling, though. That's where we're at. Any questions on that? Update on our on bottom lease program is still in effect. I know we got some people who want to talk about that in a little bit, so we'll wait and get into that when we do. But right now, it is set. It closed on the 15th. The 15th of January was when all the data had to be there. And so we're working it from that point right now. I don't know that a time frame. I don't have that answer for you. So I don't really know exactly when the off-bottom leases will start. We have got the information now. We did, if you had any accounting information, it was turned over to an accounting firm, and we don't have that, and it was graded by the accounting firm. And what we're going to do is we will turn over our grading of the criteria of the leases to another firm. And we're going to let another firm, an independent firm, do that. And so the grading of the leases and everything else will be done out of DMR. We won't have anything to do with it. It will come straight out of a private company that's being able to do it. And working on that contract as we speak. All right, any questions on that? All right, oyster season. You saw what we had in December. We've tried hard to open up in January. Lord of mercy, the nature just does not want us to do it sometimes. We've tried everywhere in the world. You got to have the water, and with all the rains that we had and things that are happening, we're very hard trying to find a way to get it back open. We were only able to open one area, and that was Telegraph Reef. And that's the only one that was outside the area of where the water quality met. And we were able to do that, but I don't think there was very many oysters on Telegraph. We knew that to start with, but we had to open it because it was something that could be opened, and that was the only thing. It was the only place that we could open, and we couldn't open any of the other areas. I know some gentlemen had asked me about looking at different ones, but we did, and it did not meet the water quality, and so we were not able to do it. So hopefully, Jason, do you know where we're at? Did we get to look at all?
Yes, sir. I do have a presentation. I can wait to give it, but I can update you. We were able to get out yesterday and sample. We're waiting for those results now. And as soon as we get those results, we'll update everybody on the next steps.
When is the earliest we could open?
We really need to wait for those results to see when we
They
get them
come
back.
back good. What
Yeah.
would it be?
It'd be Saturday or Monday. Yeah. So
Okay. Any questions on that? All right. We talked about the extreme cold weather. Rick, have y'all seen anything? I know I've got a few pictures of people sending me stuff about some dead fish and mainly the bayous and stuff. Have y'all seen anything else?
Yeah, we've seen a little bit, and Trevor's gonna when he talks about snook, he's gonna kind of build that into his presentation and talk
Okay.
about it a little bit. And I think they're gonna go do some assessments after the meeting too. So.
Okay. All right. All right. As far as the Bonnie Carey update, we have financial assistance for the commercial fishery seafood dealers and all. We're working on it as we speak. Hopefully we'll be able to we've got some of them out. What I would tell the seafood dealers and all, and if you're buying equipment, please work with the staff as much as you can to be able to get the right documentation to them. Because obviously finance is not going to let it go if it doesn't have the right documentation, and that's what their job is. And so even though that you buy a piece of equipment or whatever, and we say that we can help you pay back a percentage of that, we have to have documentation. We have to have the right documentation to show that you purchased it and that it is in operation. Because I can't do anything. I had one of the guys, a gentleman called me the other day, and he said, well, I want to buy, a couple of this, and this. And I said, well, you know what? I can't do it until you buy it. If you buy it, then I can help you pay back on it. But I can't do it if you didn't already purchase it. He said, well, I did already purchase a bunch of other stuff. He said, I was just going to tell you what I was going to do with the money that I got. And I said, well, that's fine. Do whatever you want to with the money that I'm giving you, because we're giving you to pay back for what you've already purchased. So make sure that you help them. If they call you, give them everything they can. We want to get this done. I'm already mad at them, and they mad at me because I wanted it done in December, and it hadn't been done yet, all of it. And so, help them out, because I'm giving them a hard time. And if you'll help them, it probably help them get me off their back. But we had round 2 that we did for commercial fishermen, that we put some money in there because some of the commercial fishermen were not able to be here, some due to different reasons. They were either shrimpers and out fishing and didn't get the information or whatever they were. And we want to try to find a way to help them. So we had some extra money, and we decided to do a round 2 of the commercial fishermen. And there's 94 of them, 72 that we found eligible. Out of the 94 that have applied, 72 we found eligible. So that's 72 more fishermen that's going to be able to get something for this that wasn't going to, because they failed to get into the first round. So we're doing everything we can. We're trying everywhere in the world to get if you didn't get in the first round, and we tried everywhere in the world to help you to be able to get into a second round so we could do something. Included in that, it says that they were 66 commercial fishermen, 5 charters, and 1 dealer that were included as far as the ones that were approved as far as the second round. All right. Anyway, we're looking at a grant for new and emerging seafood processing technologies. Once again, that's the seafood processors. We're working with that. So we're trying to get the money out. I want y'all to understand too, the only state in the Gulf, the only state that pays direct to fishermen is Mississippi in any of these disasters. Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, Texas don't pay direct to their fishermen. We do. We're the only state in the Gulf that does that. And it's going to be Gulf of America, I think, isn't it? And but instead of Gulf of Mexico. But anyway, we're the only state that does that. So I want you to know that we're looking after you as much as we possibly can, because y'all were very much the ones that suffered when the 2019 Bonnie Carey happened. Y'all the ones that suffered hard because you couldn't fish, you couldn't do anything else. And we tried everywhere in the world to be able to make as much as we could possible for that, and we're working on it. Any questions on that before I keep elaborating on Bonnie Carey? All right, January 17th, Lower Mississippi River meeting. We had a meeting with the mayors, and we also had a meeting with the Corps from New Orleans and from Mobile. And we sat down and we had a very good meeting. And I tell you what, we talked about what we need to do and what needs to be done about the Bonnie Carey. That was our major topic. And how could we do something to be able to mitigate the opening of Bonnie Carey as much as possible? The Corps was very open to us. And I think the mayors were very appreciative of that, the way they saw how the Corps was so open with us to talk to us about it. And they realized that the DMR on a day-to-day basis, we're talking to them, and we're trying to get things done. And the Corps is trying to work with us. They're not trying to work against us. They're trying to work with us. Their hands are tied in some places. We need to help them get them untied. And how do we do that? Is we go to legislation and somewhere in Washington and help them do it. But they did say that one of the major things, and this came out of the young lady that's in charge of the whole Mississippi River, Lower Mississippi River study, was that one of the major things that they did was what could we do to mitigate the operation of the Bonnie Carey. So they are looking at it. They're looking at it very hard, and that impressed a lot of people because they was like, man, we didn't realize this. But they are working hard to do it. They're trying. We're trying to give them every information we can. We're trying to get information to them, and they're trying to use that information. Hopefully, we need to do something in the future with the Bonnie Carey. It was built in 1927. How many of y'all driving a 1927 vehicle? I don't know very many of you unless you do it on cruising the coast or just a Sunday afternoon drive, right? But that's what we're operating with. We're operating with a 1927 version of a spillway. We need to find a way to modify that spillway. We need to find a way to modify things about it and how it's done and what we can do. We're looking at a 1953 model for the Morganza. We need to find a way. What can we do to modify the Morganza? What can we do? See, the Morganza, one of the things that you don't understand, everybody says, why don't they open it? Why don't they open it? Well, until the water gets to a certain level, it didn't make any difference. You could open it all day long. It will not spill a drop of water. It's almost like there's a hill built there, and you've got to go over that hill before you can open the Morganza. So the water's got to get there first. Well, is there a way that we can look at this and ask the Corps to maybe look at something to where we could take it and we could build some channels in there to where you could open it before that? That might be a situation, okay? The old river structure, what can we do? What can we do to look at it? The old river structure right now operates at a 70-30 rate. 30% every day goes down to Atchafalaya, 70% comes down the Mississippi River. It's by law. They don't have a choice. Corps sat there, looked us in the face, said, I don't have a choice. I can't do it. I can't do anything. But in a time like what may happen in the next few months, because of all the snow that's going on in the north and everything else, in a time like that we might be able to, if we had the capability with the Corps to say, hey, let's make that a 60-40. Where you open it and 40% goes down to Atchafalaya in a few months out of the year, and then the 60% comes down. That's not going to hurt the Mississippi. It's going to help it, and it's not going to hurt the Atchafalaya. So we're going to look at things like that. There's some things that are coming out of it that we're able to, it's more open now than it's ever been. It's more open to conversation. It's more open to listening to South Mississippi. Back when General Kaiser was there, he was the first general in the Mississippi Valley region that ever even said he would come down here and talk to us. And we talked, and we got to be good friends, and he did. And now General Peoples told me the other day, she said, I apologize. I need to get down there. I need to get down there more often. I need to get down and listen to your people. I need to understand what's going on. So we're getting more information. General Kelly, the number 2 guy at the Corps of Engineers, is saying, Joe, give me the information. We'll do everything in our power to help you with it. We're working it. It's going to get there. It's not going to happen tomorrow because you know how that goes. But we might be able to get Louisiana. If we can get Louisiana and Mississippi and get our legislators, especially our senators and congressmen on board together, and we can do something in Washington. I've learned more than one time, and Jason, you know this very well, if you get 2 states, it works a whole lot better, doesn't it? And if you get 2 states working, it works a whole lot better. So I want y'all to know we're fighting for you every day. We're fighting hard. I don't know the answer. I have an answer, but I don't know I can't get that answer done tomorrow. But we'll see what happens. Any questions on that? All right, January 27th through 30th, we go into Gulf Council. That's next week. I don't know what the topic will be, probably whether we're going to be Gulf Council or we're going to be Gulf America Council. I don't know. That's probably the topic more than anything, but I don't know what all it's going to be. There's a lot of stuff we're talking about, but we'll see where it goes. I don't think it's, Rick, do you remember anything real big is coming up in that?
There'll be discussions on lane snapper and minimum size limits and bag limits, king mackerel, Spanish mackerel, and some IFQ stuff, but nothing too eye opening.
Is IFQ going final?
I don't think so. No, sir.
Okay, it goes final.
It's the next few meetings, I think. So.
Okay. All right, but anyway, we'll keep you updated on that after the next meeting, and we'll know where we're at. February the 5th, if you're in Jackson, Mississippi, we'll have Capitol Day. That morning, we'll be at the Capitol, and we'll be set up in the one half of the rotunda to have DMR Capitol Day there. So we welcome anybody that would love to come there. Out of derelict vessels, 173 cases, 154 have been solved. That's pretty good. I tell you what, you show me any state in the Gulf that's anywhere close to that. And I can guarantee you there's not anyone close to that. 19 vessels are pending right now, and 7 are sitting there waiting on court orders. So we're getting these derelict vessels out of the way. And I appreciate Roy and Stephen and them working hard on that. So they do a great job. If I got anything else, or can I shut up? I think that's, we go to action, agency update. I got that. I mean, action update, excuse me. I said agency.
There are none today, Director.
Okay. Well then, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna be quiet if it's all right with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. A lot of information there, and glad to see that we're progressing on the Bonacary. I know it's a long, drawn out process, but I see you guys working hard on it for a few years. Hopefully, you're definitely making an impact with the state. It seems like. Do we have any reports from the commissioners today?
I don't have a report, more of a request. Joe, if we could we get an update on speckled trout? We hadn't heard anything on that in quite some time. I was wondering if maybe they could come back with the information where we're at with our spawning, with our recreational fishery, our commercial fishery, all of it.
Yeah, Trevor here. Where are we at on that? Real quick, we get something right now. We'll let you know where we're at and how much we need to do for it.
So we've been running, essentially trying to update the indexes for all of our inshore species, and spotted sea trout's one of them. It's relatively stable. Like I said, the last time we kind of brought an assessment forward, we noticed the trend of the divergence in catch and the index of abundance, mainly because of the freshwater impacts of Bonacary that continued on through the record rainfalls in 2021 and 22, which decreased the SPR. And so our kind of notion was to take caution and not quite go down the realm of management measures or anything else like that. If we want to bring back a presentation for the next month, we can do so and detail what exists for recreational landings, maybe give you all a glimpse of what we've observed with MS Krill as far as that the effort comparison goes, because that's where the big difference was. If we can't rely on removals to help inform us, then it kind of throws us off when it comes to the index as well, because you would expect that if the population decreases, catch would decrease, but with MRIP, we just weren't seeing that. So, yeah, they may be just a presentation next month that we can detail recreational landings, the commercial landings, kind of just give you a glimpse of the fishery and what the index looks like.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Apologize. I just was looking through the minutes, and there is a on page 45, it attributes a comment that Jason Ryder had to me. So while we all look alike, we're not as smart as each other, and Jason Ryder is much smarter than me. So line 17, it just says Jason Osborne, should be Jason Ryder.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll make a note in that in the minutes, I'm sure, to get corrected. Thank you, Jason. Not to while we're here as well, I had a question. I know Rick spoke on it real quick, but if the Gulf Council meeting next week or in a few days would discussing the lane snapper and other species, has there been any talk about a wahoo, Rick, at all? Is there any? I know we don't really have much limits on that. I don't know if there's any kind of assessments. I just know the fishing's been pretty good this winter, and I was curious.
So at the last meeting, so it was brought forth by the it was Texas, the steamboat. What was it? What's the name of it? The steamboat lumps. There's a management area down there, and they brought it forth saying that there's a lot of catch. They're seeing a lot of fish being caught, and they're looking at social media pictures, and there's a lot of wahoo being caught on these party boats and several day trips and things like that. And so they wanted 2 meetings ago, and so they wanted the council to take a look at it. There was a presentation given at the last council meeting. I can get that to you, and you can look at it. But there was a lot of misconceptions and some not real good data that were used on the Louisiana landings. They were saying a lot of these fish were being caught at these steamboat lumps and being brought back to Louisiana, and that's just really not fathomable to do that. It's such a long run. Most of the Louisiana's fish come out of Venice, as you know. So, kind of looking into it. I can't remember what the outcome was. If they're going to look into some management measures, that won't be on this meeting. But I can look into it and get back to you.
Thanks for the update, Rick. All right, any questions or other commissioner reports? Okay. Well, Chief Wilkerson, Office of Marine Patrol, has a report on citations for us.
Good morning. I tell you what, I am ready for summertime. Not gonna lie. Listen, I'm gonna be brief with this. December was a pretty calm month. The checks were down, and we had 837 checks, meaning that a lot of people were Christmas shopping and not on the water, because our people are always on the water, and they only came across 837 people. That's very low for us. But once again, summertime and springtime will be here, and we'll be back up in the 4-digit realm. But the report itself is pretty self-explanatory. Nothing just jumps out at me. I do know that our dive team assisted Biloxi PD with a recovery of a car and an individual off the fishing pier at Highway 90 Bridge. We were instrumental in that recovery with our dive team. Other than that, it explains itself, but if you have any questions, I'll entertain them.
Curious if you had, when it was snowing out there, you had boats out, I assume?
No. We will have boats if you call for an emergency, but no, we were not out in the snow. No, sir.
I just seeing if there was any fascinating pictures of folks out there.
Well, we probably have some by land, but listen, if you call for help, we're going to be there in the snow.
Gotcha.
Appreciate it, Chief. Thank you guys for
Thank you.
everything. All right. Moving on down to Miss Leslie Brewer for our accounting quarterly report.
Good morning, everyone. I am reporting on the financials for the end of December. Our state revenue was $4.4 million. Our agency revenue was $20.4. State net income was $822,000, and agency net income was a negative $3.3 million. And after 6 months of 25, we have 92.4 remaining of the operating budget, and Tidelands is at 65.8%. Does anyone have any questions?
Note that $3 million is not that we are broke. Deficit that is waiting on the federal government to give us our money back.
That and appropriations don't come till after the end of the year.
Understood. Any questions? All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Miss Charmaine with Public Affairs.
Good morning. The Mississippi Department of Marine Resources had 30 media mentions since the December MACMR meeting. News items included the oyster leases, oyster season, seafood labeling in Mississippi, MDMR's marine information calendars, and the promotion to make seafood great again. MDMR's Capital Day in Jackson is scheduled for the morning of Wednesday, February 5th, where we will have a staff on hand and our informational publications available for anyone who would like to stop by and learn more about our agency.
All right. Thank you, Miss Charmaine. Office of Marine Fisheries. It looks like the oyster season update with Jason Ryder's up first.
Good morning. Hey, Brady, do you mind? So I'll give a quick update. Not too much new information, just due to the situation in January with the weather, but I will go through it. If you have any questions, let me know. So to recap, December, we opened on December 9th, closed on the 21st. Y'all have seen this information. The biggest thing is we did harvest between November and December right north of 4,000 sacks of oysters. So that number reflects November and December there. Here's some more details on those numbers. Y'all have seen a lot of this information. Nothing's changed, but I did want to bring it back up. Just north of 4,000 sacks of oysters. Sacks per day was 176. Licenses are broke down. And then the main area of fish we discussed last time was 2A and 2F. January, not much to report on January as of yet. As Director mentioned to start, we did open the season on January 15th. We opened the Telegraph area. That was all we could open due to the river stage and rainfall. Right when we were trying to open the season, we had a lot of rainfall and the river was very high at the time. So we had to wait for that to crest. And then we did get this past week the cold weather and the snow, so we had to wait for all that to pass. As I mentioned, we did sample. We're waiting to get those results back, and as soon as we get those back, we'll notify everyone and make some decisions. Does anyone have any questions regarding the seasons?
Just got one comment. If you question in December why we closed a certain area, we closed the area past Marianne, past Christian, that area there.
Yes, sir.
And I tell you why we closed. We closed the areas that the state's keeping, and I did it for a reason. I did it so we'll have them in February if we want to go get them. And what I did was I opened up the areas that were possibly going to be leased. So I opened those areas up for you to be able to go out and get the ones that was possibly going to be leased. And that's what we will continue doing until we have, if it's leasing goes forward, whatever happens with it. But we will continue to do that. And I want to save our resource because that 20% that we were able to keep for the state, I want to keep that for you. So we'll continue to have that. And then and let's get the resources other than that, and then let's move forward. So that's why I did that, in case you asked any questions about it.
Jason, I'm just curious, do we collect any data, the DMR, on the dockside price of the sacks? How is that holding up over the 2 openings?
So we do collect that information on trip tickets. We do collect the number of sacks they're purchasing, or tags they're purchasing, and then what they expect to sell it for. We do collect that from the harvester and the wholesalers also. We did see it held pretty consistent in the November season. It went up slightly in the November season. And then December, it dropped slightly at the end of December, but it maintained for the most part. But we do have that information if you'd like to see it.
And just for your information too, Jason, I think it's probably on your thing here. Yeah, the 10 and 15. The reason we changed that from 20 and 15 is because we were asked by the oysterman to change it. We were asked by the oysterman to come up and asked us to change that because they wanted the 10 sacks per day for tongue and 15 for the dredgers. And that's why we changed that number. We didn't change it up because we just said, hey, we want to cut back. We were asked by you to do it, and that's why we did it. Hopefully, I think your vision was that it would prolong the season a little bit, and that's what we're looking at. And so hopefully we'll be able to open up next week. And if we do, we'll open up everything but the one that the state's going to own. All right? And whatever the state's going to own, I'm going to save that because I'm going to save it back till I find out what's going to happen with the leases. That makes sense? And then we'll have that resource to go back to.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jason. Trevor is going to give us a observation of the snook in Mississippi. This is exciting.
Hey, did you want to talk K1? We did have some.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, let me back up on the, I'm sorry, Trevor. Let's go ahead and move forward with the public comments since they are related to this bullet point here. First up, we have John Livings. Mr. Livings, just if you want to state your name and just your just the city, and that should be good. You have 3 minutes. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. My name is John Livings. I'm from Pass Christian. Sinuses, can't hardly. We wanted to come today and see about just maybe taking just 10 days at a time off. Like just open the season up. Let it run through April. If the oysters get limited and there's none, then we'll quit. Or y'all can close it then. But there's a lot of people that's not willing to put the money into their boats that's been sitting for 5 years with no long term really. Because if they put thousands of dollars in, they get 10 days and it closes, they're really not making money. They're going backwards. And the other thing we were wanting to talk about was just to see where y'all's thoughts, and I'm sure we already know, but about the leasing programs. We're going to keep trying to see about keeping the reefs public instead of private. We made some comments to a few people that already have leases are the same people putting in for the new leases. And if they were so good at growing oysters, they should have oysters on their leases now. And all the reefs around them should have oysters. So, it sounds like they just want to put in for what's there. Because I don't think a lot of the mud bottom leases have been even applied for. I think it's all stuff and you just admitted that there's oysters on these spots that's going to be leased. So I think we need to keep it. If we give it to private, then really we don't ever have a chance to work it. But if we keep it public, we have a slim chance to be able to work that product. But once it's private, it's over with for that. And once you give it away, you can't take it back. So that's just all I had to say.
Mr. Livings, yeah, as far as the 10 days, the reason we do that, and Rick or Jason, you can help me if I need to, but is we have a limit of what we can get. We know what we think is as a number out there, and I'll just give you that number. What was it, 18,000, something like that, sacks that we were looking at? Well, we're going to say 18. We're not going to worry about that. But there was something like 18,000 sacks. I've already opened my mouth, so we're going to use it, all right? And but it might have been 15, but it doesn't matter. But say it's 18,000 sacks. Right now we're at what, 8,000? Something like that? 4,000 sacks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're at 4,000. So we're looking at 12. Somewhere around 12, 14,000 sacks still out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and we can do that if we think we can work it, but we got to look at the numbers. And in other words, when we open it up next time, we can extend it after we open it if we see that we're not catching all of them real quick or anything, and we can try to extend that and move it forward. But I know we got to be able to keep some kind of data. Rick, help me. What is why the staff tells me we need to do it in this way so we can keep a tab on it. Is that correct? And make sure that we don't overexceed, because we don't want to overfish anything. That's not what we're after. But Rick, we don't know the effort. When we first started, we had 5 boats or something like that, and then I know it's moving up as the time comes, because just what you're saying, I think some of you are getting your boats back ready to go and operational and doing whatever you need to do. So I will look at that. I will look at that with them, and we will put if we see when we open, as long as the water is usually what stops us.
Mm-hmm.
If we get the rain, and this is the time of year that we're going to get it, and we can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
All right, but if the rain doesn't stop us, and we haven't reached our limit, then I think we could continue, and we would probably look at that. It's just extending it and keep continuing until we reach our limit of where we need to be.
Right.
All right, and
I just know that they'd like some insurance that it's going to be open. You know what I mean? Instead of just keep saying 10 days, 10 days, 10 days.
And I'm going to tell you something, honest facts. I don't care if we catch more than 18,000 as long as it's not on the state reefs.
Right. Well, it's all state reefs still right now.
Yeah, but if it's not on the state reefs that we're going to keep, I don't want to fish them out. But I'm not worried about what I'm leasing. If it's going to be leased, I'm not going to worry about that.
Right.
And so if it's going to be there, I don't care if we keep it open and fish to what we need to. But I don't want to hurt the resource either, because we got to have that. You know it as a fisherman, that if we get too much of the resource out, then it takes forever to rebuild it, just like what happened in Bonnie Carey.
Right.
And
SAC quotas coming in tells you that.
Yeah. But we will look at that, and we will look at that for you. And I'll be honest with you, as far as what's happening with the leases, I have statute by law, and I have to follow it. I don't have a choice.
That's right.
I
But we're
have
going to
no
keep
choice.
fighting till the end. so.
Legislation and everything was passed, and it tells me what I have to do, and I have to do it. And that's exactly what I have to do. And whether I either way about it, that's the way it should be done. And unless legislation is changed and or something happens, then I have to follow the rules.
That's right. We're not asking you to bend the rules for us.
No.
We're just asking you not to give it away. I had one more thing, is like the Long Beach Reef. Has something changed where the freshwater line goes further?
Yeah, Rick, you're the one that talked to me about
I
that,
did.
right? Yeah, Rick, you remember I questioned y'all and I asked you about the Long Beach Reef, and you said now it was part of that same area. All right, whenever we was talking about what we could open because of the fresh water. Yeah, you're who sent me the message, I think,
Yep.
right? And I was back and forth with you.
Yes, sir.
So which
All right, when I asked y'all, I think it was back when we opened up Telegraph, even before, right before that, that whenever we had the freshwater intrusion, which we're having right, had at that time, and I said, what about Long Beach Reef? And you said that's traditionally been you talked to me about it. Something I could go back and look at my text.
I'm trying to gather my mind. What
But
area
y'all
is
said
in,
that it
Jake?
fell into it used to not be into that area, but now it is.
May have been reclassified.
That's what.
That's the situation. Is that reef used to be combined with another area that they could fish, or used to be able to fish when other areas were closed. Now it's in a different classifications, and we're not able to open it at this time.
Okay.
I was just trying to figure out how the freshwater line moves.
I don't know, but it had.
Because it's in the past.
Ask them because I don't know.
In the past, we've worked Long Beach when Telegraph was closed, but
Yeah.
it has not been checked or opened since it was killed by the conservationists.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just reclassified. So the sampling that we do, we've been continued doing the sample since 2019, and so that can change, and those lines can change based on the water quality data that we gather.
I know we did look at it, and that was why I was talking about it earlier. Because you had asked me about it, and we went back and forth, and I asked them, and they said it was under reclassification and it couldn't be opened. So.
Yeah, and maybe we were misinformed before in the past. I don't know, because they showed us models before when Scott was here and stuff, and it went to the east side of Pass Harbor and turned to the channel, went around Long Beach.
Yeah.
And
Well, and once again, all I know is what I'm given, and so and I don't think they would tell me something wrong.
Correct.
And they have to do it, or they would have found a way if they could have. They would have found a way.
Okay.
All right.
Joe, if y'all don't mind, can we let them? Do we know what our goal for sacks are this year? Can we let them know what that actual number is? That way, it gives them some sort of assurance that they've got this much room between 4,000 and wherever we're going to end up.
My goal was, I think Rick and them was thinking 15. I just raised it to 18. Okay, so it's 18,000 sacks. We're at 4,000 sacks, so there's 14,000 sacks sitting out there. And as soon as we can open the season, we're going to open it. And the only thing that I'm going to tell you, I'm going to still hold back those 20%. That 20% that the state's going to keep, I'm going to hold it back because I know back if we do go forward with these leases and it happens, then I got that for you to fall back on in like February, late February or 1st of March or something like that. That makes sense? Is that all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Brad Stapleton.
How y'all doing? I'm Brad Stapleton, commercial fisherman from Pascagoula. John covered some of the topic I was wanting to talk about a little more stability there for us fishermen. It's got to invest a lot of money on getting boats ready for that 10-day stuff, and then limited days. It's hard to want to go invest everything into just breaking even when the days was numbered up. So with that, y'all giving us a goal there on the number of sacks, that helps a little bit. But another thing I wanted to ask is, years previous past, this Pearl River, it shut down on 12 feet. Now we're falling at 11 feet. Seasons was closed for 5 years. There was no evidence showing that 12 foot wasn't a good plan. Why is it now 11 feet we're closing it? It makes it pretty difficult for these 2 months here, January, February, especially with these fronts, for us to ever get a chance to work. I was just wondering why that got changed and how it got changed,
Rick, Jason, let's address it.
How you doing, Jake?
Hey, how you doing? Director, basically the same thing. So it did used to be 12 foot. We continue to water sample throughout the years. We water sample every month. And over those samples, we did have to reclassify. And it dropped from 12 to 11 in some areas. And we follow that operational plan. We work with our organizations in state and out of state to follow this. And I'll be happy to address that with you and where it changed and when it changed. But we follow an operational plan as an agency. The issue is that it changed during the downtime between 18 and now. so no one's been affected by it. And this is the first time it's really been affected during a harvest season.
Do we have data that we could put, maybe we can publish it, and that data that could be out there for y'all to be able to get?
Certainly. We can work with them if we want to get together and go over it. We'll go over that and show you the changes that affected and where and when it happened.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll put it on the website, and Charmaine will get something, and we'll put it on our website. It tells you why that was done, and feel free, any one of you, at any time, you can call any one of us in the staff in the DMR and ask us to give you, and they'll sit down with you and go over it one-on-one. All right.
All right. That's what I'd like to know is could we call for one-on-one? Because I did speak with Jason Ryder the other day and asked about the Long Beach Tonga Reef. And, you know, he didn't communicate too good with me. I hate to call him out on the spot, but he ended up hanging the phone up on me when I asked did he even know it exists. So, you know, I wanted to bring that up. I'd like to speak to you. And, you know, the one-on-one is good information to hear from.
If you'll hang around after the meeting, I'll sit down and talk with you.
All right. Thank you, sir. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Stapleton. Next up, we have Mr. Stores. All right.
George Stores.
George Stores. Oh, here he comes. Right there.
He like me, getting old, again, moving fast.
Should have parked up here where I was. I'm George Stores. I'm a commercial tonger. Been that way for like 52 years, ever since I've been married, however long that is. So I've been here a while. And I used to come here, you know, when we had nothing, and then not here, but to the buildings when they were just buildings and there wasn't nobody there except the skeleton crews. They were maxed out at the time, but they were skeletons compared to what we have now. But anyway, I've had some ups and downs in here, mostly with the dredging population, but we're all thrown into one big barrel right now, dredgers and tongers. Our reefs are in peril. They're being taken away, and it's doing it systematically. It's happening because of statute. The statute was never a problem until a handful of people, not even a handful, probably one or two of the senators or whatever they call themselves up there, decided they wanted to change the statutes. Not telling anybody else about it, probably not even telling you. You just have to obey their law. But they did that to us. Consequently, instead of being the guardian of the resource, we can just advise now. That's not what we were. We were the guardian. We didn't let people just walk over us. The legislature stayed away from us. They let us handle our own problems. Now they don't do that. Now they write laws where you can't stand up to them, where you have to take the heat for what they've done up in Jackson. And I don't, you know, I'm not for any of that. That's just crooked crap to me. But anyway, there's a proposal that I want to make to you, and you know, it's not in writing yet, but I've got to get with Ryan and a few other people and John. If you, Joe Spraggins, would give us the same amount of money, I'm talking about to the organization, the Fishermen United, that you gave to the farmers, the off-bottom farmers. If you put that money in our organization, we, the fishermen, will take care of getting our shells and getting our rocks, and we will put out the stuff where it goes, where we want it. We never had any input on where all these millions went and that you had to put out there and try to make happen. We never had input on where to put that stuff. Somebody told you where, but it was not a fisherman. It wasn't one of us. It wasn't somebody that's been doing it all their life or most of it. It was somebody else. Consequently, we ain't got jack still, hardly. And that is a big consequence to me. So this small amount of money, even though it's going to be $1 million or $2 or $3 or whatever it is that they got, I want you to do the same thing for us. And I don't want it year after year. I would love to have it year after year, but I think once we get it going, we're not going to need it year after year. We just need one good lick. And we can show you that we can take care of these reefs. We know how to turn them over. We know where to put the stuff that needs to be put. We need to put the rocks in certain places and the shells in certain places. And it's not going to be as much as you were able to put out, but it's going to be enough to where we can show you a difference. But once they take all these reefs away from us, it's going to fall on our enforcement people to guard what we've been doing, to guard our work. Because if they don't watch them, those shells will be just drug over to the edges of all these new leases they want. That's all they're going to do is steal them. That's what I think they've already done. That's why it's so slick out there and nothing ever came back, because they just kept it drug off. You know, that's just me saying, and I can't prove it because I don't watch them. But if you get some enforcement people looking at them and watching those reefs, you'll be seeing something going on out there day and night. If you just be there, they need to be there, and they need to guard what we do, guard our work. If you'll do that and take it just into consideration. I know that you're tied as far as statutes go, and I don't know how you're going to give us that money, or if you even will. But I'm asking for it, and I want you to do something about it if you can, any way humanly possible, to do this for us. The same amount of money they gave the farmers. Do that for the fishermen, just the regular commercial oyster fishermen, and we'll take care of the reefs for you. And Long Beach, let me say before we go any further. Long Beach Reef was built by, it's called the Kittiwake Reef, and Fred Deegan built that reef when he was in Long Beach. That was his baby. That was a fine reef, and it all had to do with the freshwater flow and the salt intrusion and stuff like that. And it was built scientifically. Fred did a good job on that reef. The mussels started taking over a little bit on that reef, and that's back when Rick Laird was the chairman, but he was stepping down or stepping aside or doing something, and Tommy Van Deventer stepped in. Van Deventer's about as worthless as this floor right here. He didn't know nothing about nothing. He was just a name that was next in line. And I went to him several times and told him that reef is being taken over by mussels. Well, you let us work this reef. And he did everything he could to stop us. And it finally got, the mussels got so big it killed it. But those mussels will come and go. It just takes, it's a process, it's a long process. But if you get on them and work them, that won't put you out of business like what happened to us. He put us out of business. That's a good reef. That reef's got shells on it. That reef's in a perfect place. And whoever's got doves on that reef, whoever put their name down on that reef, is on the inside of something. Because that's a fine, fine reef, not the least to someone who's just a private guy. I'm just not for leasing any of it, actually. And I want what's back that's been leased. But, that's still up to you guys to do that. But all we need is our enforcement guys to watch us, and all we need for you to do is give us the money. And we can take care of that. I'll yield back to you, Joe. Sorry I took your time.
Well, first off, I'm not sure of what you're talking about, the money we gave off bottom.
Well, I was called in by Dale Diaz. He said, you want to be a fish farmer, an oyster farmer? I said, yeah, I'd love to look at it anyway. And as a matter of fact, one of these other meetings, somebody in here's got some bottom, and I told him I had no problem having a bottom, except that I live too far away to watch my bottom. And anyway, Dale told me you get $10,000 worth of spats free. You get all your equipment free. All you got to do is get your boat and go out there and maintain them. Till you grow them out. And then, you got sellers, you got buyers. And you got a captive crowd as far as buyers because you can't get oysters. These things have been shut down. And I feel like some of these people that have those leases, those top water leases, have a hand in with the restaurants that want these things. There's some restaurants that want these leases too.
I can tell you that, in all due respect with Dale, I'm sure that I don't know why, if he stated it that way, but the point is, we didn't give them a basket one. We let them use a basket to learn how to do it. After that was over with, the baskets came back to us. All right, they had to buy their own baskets. And I don't remember, I want to say it's something like, to do 2 acres, it's like $50,000 that they had to spend or something like that. Rick or Jason, do y'all remember? Hey, Mr. Longsong, you were there?
Yes, Director, you're correct. We loan out the equipment, and we teach them and show them how to do it. And then at the end of the training, they give it back to us. Yeah. Yes, sir. That's
and
correct.
As far as the oysters, they were given by a university. They were not given by us.
Did the oysters come through Wiggins? Where'd they come from?
No, the oysters came from Auburn University, I think, is the one who gave them to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Auburn University is the one who gave them the oyster. We didn't pay a dime for this.
In other words, you didn't give those people anything.
No, sir. Nothing but training.
The
yeah.
focus of the program was for training. Yes.
And
Yeah,
could've-
and
could've
I
fell
mean,
into-
guys, tell me, am I wrong?
Oh, well, I'll go with you on that.
And
I'll-
but we didn't give them anything. The only thing that we gave them is we gave them the training for free, and which might have been worth $10,000. I don't know what that training was worth, but we gave them the training for free. We looked at it and we said you cannot give a state asset away, so we could not give them the baskets, and so we could not give them the oysters, even the spat to go on the shell, right? So what we did is we worked out, and what's the professor out of Auburn?
We worked with the Auburn University. Scott Reichert is his name.
Yeah.
And then Bill Walton.
And Bill Walton, and they're the ones that came up with the way to be able, and what they would do, and I think USM even helped toward the end,
Yeah, we've received
That-
USM's donated oysters also.
that they would give us spat on shell, spat to go put on the shell, and that for them,
They would actually give you all the spat that you needed for
we
that
did.
program.
They gave them for that program. We did not buy that. We did not spend state money. We did not spend federal money on that. That was spent through another program, and it was not us. So I don't know how they got that misunderstood, but the idea, the only thing that we did, we got a grant from the federal government to be able to use that to be able to teach you how to do it. Now we are.
Yeah, the money had to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
though.
Now the
Yeah,
one thing that we spent money on is we did buy a tumbler.
yeah, well,
All right, we did buy a tumbler and we put it over here at the port, at the harbor. I mean, and that tumbler, and they would have to go back and forth to be able to bring their oysters in and tumble them and take them back out.
I've been there, I've seen them do it.
Yeah, and so now the other thing that we did look at, we looked at a possibility, and I'll tell you this, and this is the only time that we've even looked at spending any money as far as the grants that we get, is to be able to put a barge out there with a tumbler on it so they don't have to move them in and out. That's the only thing that we are looking at right now. We have not done that at this point, but that's something that we are looking at, and I will tell you that. And I don't know the number on that. Do you know, Jason?
We haven't received any quotes at this time, so we don't have a hard number.
But that's the only thing. And I mean, I just want the record to be straight, okay?
Okay, record's good. Straight as it can be. In other words, there's no money for the fishermen to be able to take care of these reefs themselves. I don't want to be paid.
that
We don't
could
want to
be
be
money.
paid. All
That-
we want to do is be able to buy culture material,
Yeah.
and we'll take care of it.
Miss Georgia, we can always find ways to get money if we need money. We use money. The money that we've used over the last few years that we have taken the money from, some from the Bonnie Carey, some from a Go Mesa funds that we get, and we have bought spat on shell, and we bought shell or some type of mulch and put out, and we kind of put that in certain areas. And the reason we put it in those areas is because that's where the staff felt it was least susceptible to the Bonnie Carey if he opened it, and what we could do to be able to grow and be able to continue to move forward. And that's where we are in a situation right now. And me and you talked earlier, and if you don't mind, I'll bring it up now.
Right.
I don't have the money, and I don't have the resource to take care of 12,000 acres. In the past, nature has been good enough to us that it took care of it for us. We didn't have the money before to do it, and nature was taking care of it. Now, with the situation the way it is with nature, it's not taking care of it the way it did in the past. I mean, we can, as far as telegraph, I don't know, the reason there wasn't any oysters on telegraph. I don't know the answer to that. I can tell you that we had areas that were open for lease for how many years, Rick? 30 years. One area of that was leased in Telegraph, about 500 acres. Is that right? And I don't remember how big is Telegraph?
Big John, I guess.
I don't know the acreage on Telegraph off the top of my head.
A lot more than 500 acres.
Yeah, a lot more than 500 acres. I'm sorry, your other question?
Well, the question was, we leased about 500 acres of it, right?
We've leased roughly about 500 to.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was in the prior leases that we could do.
Correct.
And this was prior to anything being done with this new legislation that's being done. This was done off of the old leases that were there. And so as to whether or not anybody has, I feel strongly that I don't know that anybody's been out there. Maybe they have, and we will put law enforcement more on looking at this. But, you know, from what you're trying to say, though, Mr. George, is that you think that they maybe have raked that over, and that's why there wasn't any oysters out there the other day? I don't know that answer. I don't know the answer at all, but I will find out. And I can tell you, we'll look at it and we'll see if there's anything been done, if we can have any. We ought to be able to go back and look at even some Google Map stuff and see if there's anything out there, and, you know, research it and look at it. We can look at a lot of different things, but we'd definitely look at it and see if there was anything being done. If that's the case, I'd love to know. I'd love to know that answer. But I know that the staff has went out and looked at areas, and as far as the assessment that we're saying, how many sacks of oyster did you think they was totally in the Gulf?
Director, I don't want to quote numbers off the top of my head. I can get that answer for you, but I don't.
I want to say 50 or 50,000 sacks or something like that. And we used a number of 15 to 18,000. It's where it would be 30% or whatever. 30% is what we used off of. All right, and that's what we're looking. Now, we did not include in that the Eastern Gulf, because we never opened up anything in the Eastern Gulf over here. Okay, they still oysters over there that can be opened up. It's just a lot of room. It's just hard for most of y'all to get there. That's a long run for most of you, because most of you are, you know, are working over out of the Western Gulf.
If there's an oyster over there, we'll find it and we'll get it and we'll make money from it. But if we're not allowed to go and look and get them and it's not open, obviously we're just going to stay poor and broke.
Yeah, I understand that. And we will look at that, because we do have some areas over there right here in the back of Biloxi Bay. Yeah. There's some oysters. Yeah. There's some oysters right there. All right. We got some oysters over in Gravelin Bayou, that area, but there's some restricted areas over there. That area is restricted. And that means you can't go harvest that oyster and just take it and put it on the market. Those would have to be taken and depurated and everything else. We've even looked at how we could do that. How could we do something to where we could be able to do that? Because in a restricted area or in a prohibited area, it's two different things. We've been able to move some of that restricted area, that prohibited area in Gravelin Bayou to restricted area, which means that they could be depurated, right? But I learned a lot of things, and I'm not a fisherman by trade, but I learned that whenever you move oysters, you lose about 30% of them. And that's just in other words, if you take oysters and you put them in and do like we did in 2016, when I think we made a bad mistake, and I'm part of that mistake, and I learned a lesson from it, because when Jamie and I were looking at it as to what we could do to be able to help move some of them oysters when we thought they was going to open up the Bonnet Carré, which they did, and we moved those and we moved them over to the eastern side of the west side of the Gulf there. We moved them over to Pass Christiana and that area. Remember that? Yeah. And we paid the oystermen to come move them. You remember? And that was a payment that we did. Well, we wound up losing about 30 to 40% of them because of the oysters being damaged, where they go upside down or whatever happens once they're put back into the water. Then we turned around and dad burn it. Nature just didn't do us very good, because they put a low OD and killed every one of them. So we learned a lesson. My lesson was, don't mess with nature. And
help her along.
And don't mess with it. Nature knows what they're doing, and I'm not going to mess with it anymore. And I told him, I said, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not moving another oyster unless I could find a way. If there's a way to find something that we could take, if there was a way that we could keep them still in baskets or something, or in sacks or something to that fact, and take them and move them out of Gravelin and put them over here in the Biloxi Bay area and decorate them for 2 weeks and then be able to take them back out. In fact, that's something I've asked the staff to look at, and we're trying to find a way to do that. Is that something that we could do? And then that way we don't kill all the oysters, because we drop them back into the Gulf and then we pick them back up off the bottom again and put them back. And you're an oysterman, you know what I'm talking about.
Overhandle.
And so overhandling of them is not good. And but is there a way? We're looking at that.
Well, look at paying us to do it then.
Oh, I would, but no.
Paying up.
Well,
I'm talking
hey,
about going to Gravelines. Pay us, we'll go
no,
in there,
no. What I mean, I'm not gonna, you know,
pile the money, let us go earn the money.
yeah, that's exactly right. And you know, it might be a situation that I turn around and tell you that I'm gonna let you, and I'm just off the cuff here now. The staff hadn't got all this, but I'm gonna look at it to the point to say, hey, how can we do this to where we get you to go out there, ever who wants to do it, all right? And you get your sacks of oysters and you keep them in the sack and you take them over to this area. And if for nothing else, if we have a barge or we have something you can tie them to or something that we can do it to the point of where we got it set up to where you can be able to decorate those oysters for 14 days, I think is minimum of what we have to have. And then they could be sold on a private. Then you could sell the oysters. You know, if I pay you to go get them, then you can't sell them. Because state
Belong
can't.
to that area and decorate them, we could.
Yeah.
See, But,
Yeah,
catch
but
it,
we'll find a way. I want to help you any way I can.
help us by letting this season open whenever the water's clean.
Oh, I will.
And keep our water guys on it, so we'll know. Open everything up that the Tonga could possibly get at. Don't save, when you wanna save areas. Just let us go. There's not 10,000 of us like it used to be.
Well,
Let us go, let us keep our limit low, and let it run all the way through March, like it used to.
I can't tell you I can do that because two things. Number one, I do not know where the situation's going to be on the leasing. And if I lease a piece of property, I cannot let you fish it. All right. And so until that is decided and what we're going to be able to do, I don't know the answer. And I'm not going to tell you I can do something I'm not going to be able to do. I can tell you that we're going to open the season as quick as we can, and that we're going to open up a large majority of it. But I still feel strongly somebody's going to have to do a lot of convincing to me to tell me to open up at 20%. That I can save for you. That if I do have to lease the other stuff, and I lease it before the end, then we can open it back up, and you can be able to utilize it in the latter part of February or March.
Well, our enforcement will take care of that 20%. They'll keep them from stealing. The only thing that can hurt it is what hurts it anyway, which is nature.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's gonna be able to
Yeah,
hurt it.
but I don't-
Us
but-
taking it's not gonna hurt it, because we're gonna have our numbers low enough to where it's sustainable.
Well,
As long as you don't have catastrophe.
and I understand your thoughts there, sir, but I want you to, and I'll be glad to talk to any of you about it, and we'll sit down and go over it. But I'm thinking in my mind that the easiest reef to get to is the one that we're talking about, and that's where everybody went whenever we opened the season in November. All right, the large majority of that's already been taken. Now, how much we have left, the staff's doing study on it to see where we're at. But a large majority of that reef has been taken. And so if we turn around and you take all of that reef and then we lease the other right beside it, why won't we let you take what's beside it and then you come back and have what we have?
And Director, I would reinforce that. I mean, and I've said this before, but we have culture planted in large areas in the state-owned reefs. That's where a lot of the oysters are, and that's where they're being harvested from. So outside of those culture plants is a little bit less, but the main target has been on our culture plants.
Once again, I'll be glad to talk to any of you about it. But am I wrong by wanting to save?
I don't think you're wrong.
I mean, I'm trying to work out a way that I can keep a resource for you to be able to have if this process of leasing goes forward, and it happens between now and March, that you got a place to go to. That's what I'm trying to look at. And and I'll tell you by law, I have no choice. I have to do what law says.
Statutes
Okay?
are written up there by somebody that didn't know jack crap, so you gotta live with them, and I do too.
All right.
And I'm sorry you gotta take this kind of heat, Joe.
No
ain't that
problem.
kinda
Thank you,
guy.
Mr. George.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Jason, I'm just curious. So say the reef that's being worked right now, what kind of timeline, if it is wiped pretty well this season for a regrowth. Is that something that happens? I mean, or if it's pulled pretty heavily, what kind of regrowth are you?
Yeah, so I
looking at?
mean, we don't. It's one of those things that if you take it down so far, it's just going to compound. It's going to take longer to rebuild. We want to leave some resource on those reefs, so when spawning does occur this spring and fall, that they have something to attach to and grow to. If you take it so far down, like we saw after Bonnie Carey, the limited resource there just takes longer for that reef to recover.
And I can tell you, if we spend, in which we have a contract right now that is to put some more, 1,000 or 2,000 cubic yards of Colta spat-on shell, it will be only on those reefs. It will be only on the state reefs that we have right now, but that we're thinking that we're going to be able to keep. Let's just put it that way. To that 20%, that's where we're putting it. We're not going to put it anywhere else, and we haven't been putting it anywhere. We've been trying to maintain that area, and that's what we asked for. Whenever we were told that we were allowed to keep 20%, our goal was to make sure that we spent our money in the area and we kept what we had spent our money on. So hopefully we'll have more in the future with that.
And managing those areas so it'll continue to produce is what it sounds like. I think didn't we already have Brad?
Yes.
Yeah, we already had Brad. I think.
Okay, he did two of them. He
He did
already
two.
had,
Okay. Mr. Livings, that's a different one. We had him. We already had John too.
but some of them turned in two different
Yeah.
ones, so we'll.
Okay, well, do we need to call the?
Is there
it's
anybody else?
separate? Yeah, I do have a, Mr.
Cliff
Cliff
Longson.
Lonson.
I didn't have anything.
Oh, you got I don't know, we had one that you wanted to talk. I didn't know.
You had a public comment?
I would address the gentleman that was talking about the
Come up to.
off bottom fisherman. Hey guys,
Yeah,
Cliff
state your
Longson.
name and what city there.
Cliff Longson from Biloxi. I will say that talking about the off bottom oyster leases that we have, the Department of Marine Resources didn't purchase our oysters. I purchased my own oysters that I put into my cages. I purchased my own cages. I had 100 cages at $200 each. That's 20 grand. And then I put another 10,000 in seed stock on them, plus a boat, plus it was a lot of money to get started. So if someone thinks that the DMR gave us a bunch of money to get this done, they're wrong. That's not what happened at all. We paid our own way, and I actually started at Auburn, and I went to Auburn at the Sea Lab down there, and I paid $500 to go through the course. So over here it was free, but I just wanted to let them know that the Department of Marine Resources didn't give us that kind of money to do that. So they got bad information. That's all I had.
Thank you, Cliff.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, well, I think we can, that's.
You
it
all
on
okay?
these. I had one gentleman, I think it was, he was asking, did you have one more question you had? If you want to come up, it's, Brad Stapleton.
Brad, oh yeah, Brad. State it again, your name, and also we'll get them.
How you doing? It's Brad Stapleton again. What I'd like to talk about when you said a lot of the resource was gone that we've already worked on the reef, I've been out there tonging every day, and that's us you see in the picture there tonging that you had earlier. We haven't touched any of that, man. It's oysters thicker this year than I've seen in the 20 years I've tongued. I don't know where the assessment come from, but they're plentiful. We make a day in an area as small as from me to you. I could catch my limit, and there's boats. You could go there multiple days and do it again in that same little spot. So there's a big abundance of oysters. That assessment might be wrong. And y'all talking about working it down, as long as enforcement's out there watching for little ones, and you're taking only the big harvestable oysters, I don't see where you're hurting anything. It should bounce back the following season just like it always has, year in and year out. If you're not taking the young ones, they're going to grow. They'll be ready for next year. So I just wanted to, I didn't want everybody to be confused about that and be misunderstood to think that, we're at the bottom of it and we're working it down. It's not going to be anything for next year. It's more oysters here on that Tongue Reef than I've seen since I was a teenager, and especially the young growth.
Well, and they're there for a reason. That's because where we put the resource.
Well, right. Definitely it's because of the resource. But what I'm saying is you're not going to overwork that if you're taking only the big harvestable oysters and you leaving everything back over that's young. That's your next year's seed. It ain't going to take years to regrow. It's going to be ready for next season.
Well, what I will do is I'll ask the staff, Jason, would y'all look at it and let's see what we can do about another assessment of that area, and so that we can look at it and maybe we can come up with a bigger number, or I don't know. Well, let's look at it. Okay.
Because I think it did way better than what y'all expected.
We'll
I think
look at
it turned
We'll
out.
definitely look at it. Jason, if y'all can just look at it and let's see what we can do to another assessment of it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. All right, moving on to Mr. Trevor for the snook. I think this is really going to happen here. This is snook conversation.
Little change in topic. So, obviously, you see that the next presentation you're going to have is 2 records on snook. So, since that's 2 new records, figure give y'all a little bit of background on what we've been observing of the species for the last little while. So, those familiar, snook prefer a subtropical inshore habitat. South Florida, South Texas is where they really range throughout the Gulf. Prefer mangroves, beaches, seagrass, and there's limited survival of the species, less than 60 degrees Fahrenheit. They are extremely freshwater tolerant. Really, if you're comparing the two between snook and spotted sea trout or red drum, essentially you're looking at a species in spotted sea trout and red drum that can tolerate sub 40 degree temperatures for a little while. Snook are on the upper end of 45 degrees, so that's really the reason why they haven't really inhabited this area too much. So like I said, there's a concentration in coastal Florida, Big Bend, southern Texas down to Brazil. They're protandric hermaphrodites, meaning that they begin their lives as male, and then somewhere between 17 and 22 inches, some of them transition into females, and that's when they become sexually mature and spawn. Excellent table fare, highly targeted by recreational anglers in Florida and in Texas, and really throughout their range. So some of our observations, staff's observations, we had an initial report that was recorded by us in 2017. It was a fish caught out of Pascagoula that was 17 inches. We went back and looked through museum records, and there was a single observation in 1937. And if I remember correctly, it was either Bayou Cadet or Point Caddy. So I wasn't really familiar with exactly where it was, but it could have been either one of those. Either way, it was a positive finding. And since 2017, both us and staff at the lab have recorded instances of Brady, the screen's off. We've recorded instances of snook, but it's been about once a year. And then I just recite the rest of it, but it culminated into this year where in the last 18 months, we've had 16 observations of this species, which is a fair amount for us. These range anywhere from juveniles all the way up to subadults, so basically cast net size to hook and line size, with one instance of a fish being caught at 10 pounds, which was fairly impressive. That fish was likely here for multiple years and could be evidence of what I'll talk about here in a minute. And we actually have multiple throughout Biloxi Bay, so it's not restricted to just the Pascagoula drainage. We've had observations in Biloxi Bay as well. We've also had increased occurrences in Alabama, our neighboring state, and they saw an increase in observations starting in 2017. So really, this is looking like a species that's kind of skip hopping along the Gulf and made it to us. So obviously, we've got some theories behind what is going on, but we're not completely sure. The first one, when we first saw the single event, there was a thought that it could be just larval displacement from their native range. So obviously, when we have events like hurricanes or anything else like that, that stirs up the water pretty well. If y'all were here after Hurricane Katrina, there was a big push of red grouper that occurred for the few years after that. That was kind of one of those instances. And when you see this, obviously you would expect that you would see juveniles or adults, but that observation would decrease over time with the absence of any events. or we have an established local population, which is getting to the point where we're kind of leaning that direction with our observations. So we could have started with larval displacement, or it could be range expansion where they're skip hopping across the Gulf. But obviously, with this theory, you'd have increasing occurrence as more individuals become spawning capable. They reach that size where they shift over to female. And obviously, if this is the case, then there's a thermal refuge that holds the bulk of the individuals in winter months. Some considerations for y'all, just as we're thinking about the species. So range expansion could lead to a larger fishery if we increase observations, everything else like that. You could have more and more folks targeting them and catching them. The potential for freeze conditions should make any regulations ineffective for long-term sustainability. I made this presentation before Snowmageddon, so I'm actually going to get out on a boat with a crew after this, and we're going to go look and see about cold kills. But I've got a couple pictures to show right after this presentation about that. And we'll continue to monitor and encourage anglers to report catches. The lab recently put out a reporting mechanism for anglers. We're going to be just kind of passing back and forth information as it goes through. But before I move on to that state record presentation, Brady, you mind pulling up those pictures real quick? So the director mentioned cold kills, and obviously if y'all saw it on our Facebook page, we're asking folks to report what they observe. This was actually from Crew and Marine Fisheries that went out and did inshore monitoring, essentially looking at smaller species, everything else like that. And there was actually a positive catch of spotted sea trout along with sheepshead and young of the year, essentially. So go to that next picture. We had some sheepshead in there. Obviously, we all know sheepshead move a little bit quicker than a trawl should, so those are likely been a little bit lazy on the bottom with the cold temperatures. And then the next one, ready. This is the size distribution of the spotted sea trout. Note that all those under the ruler are young of the year. They're 4 inches, so they were still alive. They were caught. Likely we have a lot of species retreating into the deep holes and everything else like that, but obviously we do still have live recruits that are occurring in the area. So hopefully cold kills won't be too much of a concern, but we're going to try to monitor the best we can. And with that, I'll take any questions before I move on to the records.
It looks like the fish that you guys have caught were in a trawl and they were still alive.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Just lethargic, probably. Huh?
Yeah. Likely those fish are all hanging out in deep holes. The good part is that you've got young of the year, so recruits that are still alive and kicking down in those holes and everything else like that. So hopefully this event isn't too large scale, but we're going to try to keep our eyes on it. Obviously, those fish, if we're going to observe it, it should be in the next couple of days. Those fish will start floating out of the holes and everything else like that. But we'll just keep our eyes on them and try to stay in touch with anglers and everything else like that. All right.
Questions? All right. Moving on to the records, finfish records.
All right. So we've got 2 conventional tackle records. One of these is going to be a youth, but it is common snook. It's a new record at 15.36 ounces. So like I said, we have multiple observations, but this angler was the first one to bring one in for a record. Is Mr. Vince Ray. There's a picture of the fish, and there is Mr. Ray with the fish. And not 2 days later, we had a youth conventional record come in. It was Mr. Zach Broussard, son of Eric back here in the back. It was 8.96 ounces, so it was going to be a record no matter what because the record wasn't established, but it does meet the 50% threshold. There is the fish, and there's the young man with the fish. So all we need is a recommendation to adopt those new state records.
And if I could recognize that
The house
behind him, if I can get a gauge on that somehow. All right. Do we have a motion to recommend the adoption of the new state records?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Trevor. All right. Well, it looks like that's it. Is there any other business? I think we went through all the public comments, Director, so we should be good on that avenue. Does anybody have any other questions? If not, do we have a motion to close?
I'll make a motion to close.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. What here is hard to do.